Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of AMA's Marketing In. I'm your host, Bennie F. Johnson, AMA CEO. In our episodes, we explore life through the lens of marketing, delving into conversations with individuals that flourish at this intersection of marketing and the unexpected. We'll introduce you to visionaries whose stories you might not yet have heard of, but are exactly the ones you need to know. Through our thought-provoking conversations, we'll unravel the challenges, triumphs, and pivotal moments that have been shaped in their lives and careers by marketing. Today, my guest is Elav Horwitz. Elav has mastered the art of translating really complex innovations from AR to AI, from social media to immersive experiences, into strategic growth opportunities for some of the most iconic brands. Her background weaves together this kind of global tapestry, stretching from the world's innovation centers to the boardrooms of industry leaders, to small startups and offices, and here on our very own podcast. She has leveraged digital disruption into competitive advantage with a significant focus on today's topic of generative AI through a blend of both creativity and strategic insight. Elav guides brands to a future-ready state, envisioning and implementing digital transformations that lead markets and resonate with consumers. She's a proven innovation leader, a founding member of Chief, part of the Meta Creative Council, an advisor to numerous startups, writer, public speaker. Her influence reaches deeply into diverse arenas, not only impacting businesses, but also shaping the thought leadership and innovation practices across various sectors. As you can see, we're really honored and delighted to welcome Elav to our podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you for this amazing intro.
Oh my goodness.
I think I'm going to use it.
I am just so honored and impressed to be able to have our conversation today, to really think about, the heart of innovation. And I promised you before that we're going to talk AI, but that's not going to be our first question, right? So our first question is, I want to know more about you and your journey. So what led you to this role of we talk really big about big innovation and changing the world, but what led you down this path? How did you start?
So I always love starting by saying that as a kid, I always wanted to work in advertising.
Uh-huh.
I hope there still is some kids out there that still want to work in advertising. I don't know why, but it was definitely my dream. Then I'm originally from Israel, and in Israel, obviously, everyone has to go to the army. And I was very lucky in a way that they put me in the computers and intelligence unit, even though I didn't want to deal with technology. It wasn't my passion, but somehow they found out something that I didn't know at the time. This is where I discovered my passion for technology. After 3 years in the army, I went to college. I wanted to go and learn something related to marketing or advertising. Someone told me there is a famous Institute of Technology. Someone told me about this new degree that's all about instructional design. And it's kind of the perfect combination of technology and design and marketing and advertising and psychology. They said okay, I'm going to try it out. I went to school. Then in between, I started even working for some tech companies. But again, my dream was advertising. So in the last year, we had a course on advertising with a small digital agency that supported us. And I said, that's my chance. I'm going to do it now. We had a whole presentation we had to present. And then at the end, the CEO came and said, I would love for you to come and work for us.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yes. But he said for free. Back at the time, I was okay. So I started doing that, and I worked for free for a few months. And then I said, listen, I need to pay the rent, so I need to get paid. But it was a great school because it was one of the first small digital agencies, and it was the early days of digital media and social media. So we did a lot of crazy campaigns that created a lot of noise. And then I moved to another small digital agency to run the social media department. And then a recruiter that knew me said, oh, they're looking for someone like a digital expert to
Right.
come to McCann in Tel Aviv. And I said, I don't know. And like McCann Tel Aviv, like it's a really big office, one of the most successful ones. He said, like, it feels too big. I don't think like I would be able to do it. I prefer like more boutique agencies. And just go and meet with them and see like what you feel. And I met the CFO and the COO was an amazing woman. And obviously she convinced me to
Right.
come and I said yes. And I joined McCann. And it was amazing because it was to work with top-notch creative, famous brands,
Right.
and also to lead like digital transformation from scratch. And obviously Israel is like an amazing innovation hub with so many startups. So after 4 years, they said like, oh,
Mhm.
we're not taking advantage of what we have around us, like in terms of startups. So I created this program called Tech Date
Okay.
to match between brands and startups.
Oh,
And again, it
nice.
was
Right.
now 9, 10 years ago. It was like quite innovative at the time because the brands marketing mainly like they did partner with small emerging startups. We started doing that. And then we did it to a global delegation from Nestle and some other McCann offices around the world, like started hearing about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do it globally
Right.
in some capacity. And then I was offered the job here in New York to move to New York to be part of McCann Worldgroup globally and to start our innovation department, innovation offering, which was also like my dream all the time to be in New York. So I'm kind of one of the lucky
Right.
ones that I'm able to say like, oh, I actually fulfilled my dream. So yeah.
This is an incredible story, but I'm for full clarity. I
Thank
just
you.
want to make sure. So now you get paid though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted
Yes,
wanted to make
thankfully.
sure
Yes.
because,
You know,
I'm
yeah.
here for you. I wanted to
After
make
all,
sure.
it's New York City. You know?
That was my concern. I was like, oh,
Exactly.
now
Yes.
it's incredible to kind of hear that space in there. A point that I saw that was interesting in your background is how you've been able to toggle between startup and big enterprise. I'm going to ask this question as a two-part. What are some of the things that you wish that more startups understood about larger organizations and vice versa? What do you think that there are some lessons that the big brands can take from some of the startup energy?
Yeah. So it's a great question. I think I will start with why I love working with
Right.
startups like that much. For me, it's like all the time the signals like towards the future. And every time there's new emerging technology, I always go and try to find like the most like relevant like an innovative startup because then I would understand okay
Right.
how this future might look like and like which solutions we actually need to think about. So I would love that like big corporations would have this agility
Mm-hmm.
and can do it spirit and that, you know, we're here for each other and this togetherness and we have one mission and one goal that the whole company is going towards, which is amazing. Like this
Right.
energy, every time like you made a startup, you're getting infected by this like energy. And that's like the beauty of it. And then I would love for startups to understand it's like they need patience to actually work with like big corporations. And then I think sometimes, not sometimes, like most of the times, and like that's what I do with most of the startups I work with, is they need to tailor their story accordingly
Mm-hmm.
to the company they're meeting with. So for me, it's not only sharing the solution like case studies,
Right.
it's already kind of saying or like after some research, here's like what we think like we can actually do for you. And kind of like close the gap because
Right.
then I think like it would be like easier for the company to say yes versus trying to figure out by themselves what should be the first pilot. But I think it's mainly, yeah, you know, just like translation
Right.
between like two different entities in a way.
I love the advice that you've given on both sides of that. But something you said at the beginning was really interesting, that when you find innovation or you see something new technology in there, you go directly to the startup source. Right. Now, talk a little bit more about that. How does that help shape your understanding of the innovation or the new? And I'm going to say innovation because sometimes innovation is not technology, right? To speak broader in that, how does that help shape your understanding of how to wield this new innovation?
So it's again, because like innovation, for me, it's to show that new things are possible, right? or new solutions. And I always say, in a way, we don't need to reinvent the wheel because someone has been already creating this wheel or like has been thinking about it. So we just need to find a solution that is relevant and adapted. So a lot of the times is, for example, and like I also call it like chicken, the egg, or the omelet.
Right.
So in the creative industry, so sometimes the creatives will have an idea and that we need to find like the right technology.
Right.
But sometimes it's the chicken. And then like the egg is like, no, you see an amazing technology out there. And then the creatives or the business, the brand team would have an idea of what they can do with it. And sometimes just like a combination of both of them or just an insight or someone read something that then you're like, okay, that there was something here, like now try to find the right idea or the right technology as part of it. So it's like a mix. So for me, it's to show the possibilities. It's also to show, because I feel like there's a famous meme or cartoon sometimes that a lot of companies or like a lot of people, they want to be like the first ones doing something, but then they ask like, can you show me someone else who did it?
Right.
So you want to be the first one, but you also want to make sure that you place your bet in the right way.
Right.
So for me to show startup solution and like mainly the ones that like already have case studies, it's kind of like giving an insurance certificate to a big company to say, this is doable, this is possible, here's the potential ROI that you can have out of it. And now let's try it and let's experiment with it. And then it's also, again, because I mentioned the signals. So like with like every new technology, we can have some predictions of what those would bring. And that we can find relevant startups and to say, here's the evidence of why we think like these predictions might happen.
Which I think it's really powerful. When did you realize that you had a gift in helping to translate these complex, because you talked about kind of not even leaning into the technology space and then finding that was a passion lane. But when did you realize that you could kind of make sense of these movements in a way that was impactful to organizations?
Wow. Thank you. I think for me, it's mainly to understand something that sounds complex to people and then being able to translate it in a way that would make people excited about it or want to hear more or I will always try, because again, of course, we're in this industry. For me, it's all about storytelling. So how do you tell a story about it that will make someone feel that he wants to be part of it? And I feel like sometimes, and not sometimes, most of the time, it's like technology is very intimidating and scary, and people don't want to engage with it. So it's kind of like, okay, how can I tell this in a different way? And all the time, like when I would see something, so this is what it means, or like this is how people can think about, how brands can think about it, or like how we can tell it in a better way. And what inspires me is that when I see something click for someone, or this light in their eyes when they understand something that they haven't understood before. And I don't know, for me, I always laugh that I suffer from constant FOMO.
Okay. All right.
So regarding the fact that this is why also I love New York and like why I live here.
Right.
But it's every new technology or every new trend, I need to understand what it is, or like I need to try it out, that I would be able to satisfy my FOMO. And this is why then I can kind of share it with other people as well. So yeah.
I love the curious spirit, right? Because it gets you in this space in there.
Yeah.
But I think you broached the topic in a way that I think it's nice for our pivot in the conversation. This notion of fear and nervousness. I get asked constantly, both in public and private conversations, about generative AI's impact on marketing. And it often comes from a space, these conversations and requests come from a space of fear. Talk to me a bit about how we as a marketing industry should kind of think through our processing of what generative AI can mean, and how we can use it for the good for our industry.
Yeah. So my first slide, like in all of my presentation on generative AI, I showed this clip of the first film that was introduced by the Lumiere brothers in 1895. And I think like everyone knows the story that like when it was introduced in the cinema, people were so scared that they jumped out of their chairs, like when they saw the train entering the station. So I asked people not to jump out of their chair during this presentation. And I say, and I accept it. It's every new technology and new innovation. It's scary and it's intimidating and it requires some changes. So it's okay to feel like that. But then my next slide is that I show a graph of showing how like new innovations always brought new jobs and new money and new opportunities and new solutions. Also, of course, help the economy. So, and this is kind of like where I show it's also going to be beneficial. And now the only decision we need to make is like on which side you're going to be. Is that, and I think like, mainly with like generative AI and like it was the same with the metaverse people like, oh, it's just the hype, it's gonna go away. And I think in 2023, there were like a lot of people that were still on the fence and calling it a hype or a scam. And I think now in 2024, people finally understand, no, it's here to stay. It will change some jobs and processes, but at the same time, it would also create new solutions and new business models like we need to think about. For me, it's an evolution that we need to evolve ourselves with this technology, and we need to upskill ourselves and like our teams to understand like how to use this technology for our own benefit. And then I get excited about, I have this table that shows how AI is going to affect everything. And the last bucket is what are like the new businesses and products and solutions and services that we can think of offering, as an agency for our clients, but of course for like big companies like marketers now to the consumers. Because a lot of things that like we wanted to do in the past and we couldn't because it was too expensive or too complex. Now we can actually do it with generative AI. And we still need to remember, and like for me, this is the most important point. It's just a tool. It's not that like by itself would create solutions or ideas or would generate content. You still need the human input as part of it. And it would help, of course, it would amplify a lot of processes and it will solve a lot of challenges, but you still need the humans to be part of it.
And earlier this year, you wrote a piece about this kind of tension in space between human and machines.
Yeah. So it's always, I feel like, people were always afraid of robots, right? And it's in all of the movies and the doom and gloom. And like, let's be honest, even some of the robots that we're seeing these days, like they look scary. They don't. It's, it doesn't look like that nice if you will not have it at home. So, and there is always, and the media also like loves the negative headlines in a way. Is that like the AI is after us, the robots will take over, and one day the whole world would explode because of robots. But unfortunately, people have used technology and innovation for good purposes and bad purposes. This one will be no different. I think what I hope is with this one will be a little bit more aware of the issues because we've seen some of it with social media and digital. So now I feel like there's like more push towards being more ethical and diverse and fight for like the right solutions. And I think like companies should also fight for that, of course, with everything they're creating. But again, it's still all will be about like human creativity and ingenuity. And the World Economic Forum, they published a report saying that yes, thanks to AI or because of AI, 93% of jobs will be transformed or changed. Not canceled, but changed in some capacity. But the number one skill that we all need to have is creative thinking. And the second one is analytical thinking. Reason being is that like now you can create so much content or so many solutions right now that the ones that would actually rise to the top or like the ones that would shine are the creative one, the ones that like, people understand how to create impact with those. So for me, this is why it's like so critical to still have creativity and human experience as part of it, because only then you know how to direct the machines and the AI.
It's so true. So I'm going to ask you this question because you have such an interesting and dynamic global growth story. So where do you look for new ideas?
For me, it's I always say the streets.
Uh-huh.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm very lucky, of course, to live in New York, and this is why COVID was so hard for me, and of course to other people. But it's this constant
Right.
inspiration that
Right.
I'll see something that I didn't think about, or a new experience, or a new store. Like someone would say something, or someone would wear something, and then something would click for me. For me, it's also like virtual suites, like
Right.
Teams chat. We have now globally, we've created a lot of virtual groups of like talents from around the
Right.
world that will just communicate like all the time and share
Mm-hmm.
ideas and concepts. Someone would post something and then will inspire like another person. So for me, it's this little moments that you see something that somehow inspire you to think about it differently.
Well, I'll ask this question for hyperfocus. What excites you today? What are you most excited about?
It's gonna be a cliche, but I am really excited about AI and the
Yeah.
possibilities. I think for me, not speaking about, and it is like related to our world as well, but for me, the fact that it democratizes creativity
Yeah.
and give accessibility to people to create ideas or like their solutions in ways that they couldn't have done before. The fact that you don't need to know how to code anymore, it's it's beyond, right?
Right.
Because that was like a secret, not a secret,
It
but
was a
like
barrier, right? You're right. It was a barrier to
yeah, it
entry
was a barrier.
and
Yeah,
defined
yeah,
what companies could have and what companies didn't and who could be a part of that career space. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
exactly. Yeah. And go to school and learn computer science. Most people would feel like it's not for them, but they might have an amazing idea they always wanted to bring to life, and now they can. And now they can. So for me, it's this accessibility to education
Right. Right. Yeah.
that you can learn everything you want now. And it's just like a question away.
Yeah.
And you can learn like everything you want. So for me, it's that I know that it's going to bring like a lot of issues to society,
Yeah.
and it already brings, but I do believe that it will solve some of our biggest challenges like climate change and poverty. Again, if humans and companies would know like how to use this technology in
Right.
the right way, but there are already so many amazing innovation and for health
Right.
as well. And I always say, this is just the beginning
Right.
of what is coming.
We're at that stage, to go back with the example you use with that first film.
Yeah.
We're at the stage in which it's novel, it's future forward. It has moments that shock us because it's different than what we've experienced. But think about how much, if we take ourselves back to that first moving picture, to how much we've experienced over the last, 100 years of film?
Exactly.
The impact that it has. So I'm going to ask a little more pointed question about, what do you think about this new generation of technology's impact on marketing as a profession? What opportunities do you think it proposed for us?
Kind of like going back to, what you were telling me about when you went to one of the universities or colleges and you're about to give a talk, and like most of the questions were about AI. What I say to every young person I interact with is just master those tools. Experiment with everything that there is out there. Have your unique point of view on it. Create new solutions or ideas. And now it's the time, again, if you're looking for a job, is master that. And I think that's what every big company or agencies are looking for. People understand the business, but also understand like what they can actually create with those tools. I think for marketing, it's mainly and also like an exercise that like I do when I present some of the solutions. I say, just write down all of the tasks that you would love for them to be automated.
Right.
We all have that, right? It's some tasks that like we hate to do, and it just takes a lot of time. And you feel that like there must be a better solution instead of like you doing it. For me, this is AI. That's the first thing is, okay, how can you move all of this boring, mundane tasks that now can be done with like AI? And then how much time we would get back to focus on what's important and connecting with people, coming up with ideas or creating like new solutions as part of it. So for me, that then The second thing is, what are some of the current challenges you might have personally or professionally? Then understand how Gen AI might solve that.
Right.
And in order to achieve all of that, it's everything is about upskilling and playing with the tools. It's not like you need to learn everything that it's out there, like play with every tool, but you need to understand how it can help you, what it can do,
Right.
and then like you understand how you would function differently and how you would structure your team differently, and what are like the new tasks that you can do thanks to that.
Which I think is really great. If you were then to give advice to executives now, because one of the conversations we always have is the tension that marketing leaders may have with some of their C-level peers, what advice would you give to executives on how to think about that intersection of technology, new technology, and marketing? What advice would you give to that executive suite who are always in the conversations with the marketing leaders, right? But if you could offer one bit of how to more effectively engage and leverage marketing, what advice would you give to our fellow friends in the C-suite?
Set aside time and some budget, not like even like big budget, for experimentation. That when you see something that you want to experiment with, it will not be the time or like resources that would stop you from doing that. I'm a big believer again, like in training and upskilling teams. So to do more of that. And I think that would unlock, the fear or the concerns that people might have of engaging these new solutions and like technologies. Because when you understand what it is and you understand like the opportunities and the threats of gathering new technology, then you know how to use it. Yeah. So for me, it's that. It just embrace like an experimentation mindset. Speaking about what we can learn all from startups, it's that.
Yeah. I love how you're framing that because it's true. Like experimentation provides a solution to perfection, right? For executive suites and leaders who want this thing to work out perfectly. When you think about it, it's experimentation that you get your breakthroughs, that you get your biggest impact, and freeing yourself up from that and setting aside the space to have healthy, dynamic experimentation, is a space in which marketing can thrive.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if I ask you this question, as you think about, you call yourself a brand innovator, which is really kind of wonderful and powerful in that space. When you think about what's next for brands, I ask this question for you. What's next for you? What's top of mind for you in the future, my friend? What are you thinking about?
For me, it's how we can help creativity thrive in this new era of AI, how we can refine new voices and, talents that are embracing this technology and then make sure that they would be part of our industry.
Right.
I think it's also, it's not like, everyone has been kind of saying that, and I feel like even there's a new article about it today. We know it's going to disrupt like advertising and marketing business models. But I think, it's the time. We need a little bit of disruption to come up with new business models and new solutions and rethink this like formula that we all feel that we have right now.
Right.
And I think better content, better ads, better solutions would come out of it for people, for consumers, and for companies themselves. And I think a lot of it would change. And I don't want to say that like we're not going to recognize advertising and marketing anymore, but it will probably be better and more relevant and more personalized and more creative. So yeah, for me, it's this new balance.
Yeah.
How it's all gonna, who are like players, how it's all gonna play out, what will come out of it. And then personally, I feel, it's like we've been through a couple of tech revolutions by now. For me, it's how we're making sure that we are creating like a better technology for all right now. It's how are we making sure that more women would be part of this, because there was already like an AI gender gap.
Right.
Because, of course, men are the ones developing these solutions. Women are not embracing it enough like men. It's probably going to hurt women's jobs versus what's considered to be like men's job. And that's, for me, it's like, wait a minute. We were through something like that like already. We're still, of course, part of it. So now how can we actually change that and make sure that women or under marginalized voices would be like the ones, I don't want, not necessarily like dictating like the new technology, but being part of the conversations. Because if not, like, we're just going to do the same mistakes all over again.
Right. And to your point, this is an active season for all of us to be a part in shaping what these newer technologies continue to become and evolve in. Right. If we opt out of it, then it happens to us versus being a part of crafting what becomes next.
And push the tech companies, push the startups. I feel like the difference, and OpenAI speaks about it publicly. They're saying, tell us, how could we do better? What we should be doing? Put guardrails in place. They are asking for it. And I think it's different than what we used to see like in the past. So yes, to your point, this is definitely the time to push back on some of the solutions, or like try to think how to create like something even better.
So I'll take you back to growing up. Did you ever imagine that this would be your job?
No. And I feel very lucky that as I mentioned, I wanted to work in advertising and I wanted to live in New York. So I definitely do that. But
what a way to do it, my friend. What a way to do it.
Yes. And I feel like very lucky that I get to play and work with people that want to experiment these new solutions. And I love the challenges. Like in between. I still find that people are afraid or they don't know exactly how to embrace it. For me, it's yes. I get excited by it when it's all clear. I'm like, okay, no, this is not that exciting.
Well, I love the fact that you're excited about the complex intersections. And that's what our conversations here are all about. That there are no easy solutions, but really dynamic questions and prompts for us to figure this out. And you've turned your entire career into an innovation lab, which I think is kind of fun to think about.
Thank you.
So yes. Well, thank you. I cannot believe we're at the end of our time already. I could sit back and talk about innovation with you forever. And I'm sure we'll do it again. I'm going to invite you back next year because I know in 12 months,
who knows?
So much will have changed.
Yeah.
And we'll need to see so much more that comes into it. But yeah, I think about, innovation, as you said before, as an opportunity to experiment and play and think about the unexpected. And that's really what, we want to encourage in our careers in marketing for those who are coming up and working. So Elav, thank you for this thought-provoking conversation, your spirit and energy, and being open to experimenting and breaking things.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And who knows, maybe the next time like our AI avatars would be the ones talking. So
maybe. And then we'll let them do it. And then we'll just edit and correct as we go along. Right. No, but the future is dynamic and we encourage you all to be a part of it. So thank you all for joining me and my guest, Elav, as we talk about innovation, technology, and what's next in AI marketing and beyond. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Marketing And. We encourage you to follow us both and follow the AMA. We're here as a resource for you to help you navigate upskilling, experimentation, and the future of marketing. Thank you for joining us today.